Thanks, Mike.
Okay, can everybody see the screen?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, so you can see my header slide. Okay, brilliant. Yeah, my name is Mike Holliday. I'm from Gloucester and Wiltshire Partnership, and we're in basically a partnership or association of the colleges and schools across the two counties of Gloucestershire and Wiltshire. Another part of my role is to deliver the Ask Apprenticeship Programme within schools within Wiltshire. Just a brief overview of that programme to start with, and then I'll go into some of the data that I've been doing some analysis on with regards to apprenticeship vacancies. So Ask is delivered across the whole of the whole of England by these different partners. We deliver it in the south in association with CXK. The Work Pays section delivers it for Gloucester. For some reason they're grouped into the Midlands, but other than that, everything else in the south is delivered through CXK. And basically the offer that we do with Ask is broken into three different sections. You've got students, teachers and parents, and we do a blended delivery now. Obviously with COVID-19 we can do some remote work as well as going into schools probably after Christmas, more such with regards to the COVID-19 situation, but certainly we can still do delivery now with schools, and we have got quite a number of bookings already in the system. There's also a lot of resources online as well for schools to access. Just a few things there, just to give you an idea. There's also the vacancy snapshot, which is a really useful tool on Amazing Apprenticeships, and that gives you a lot of employers there that are recruiting, and it gives a lot of insight into their apprenticeship programmes. There's also the Apprenticeship Champions Network. Now that's a little bit on pause at the moment. These are ambassadors for the apprenticeship programme, actual apprentices that are going through their programme or have actually just finished their programme. Normally would go into schools, but we're working on a remote offer as we speak. So hopefully we'll be able to reinstate that one fairly soon. So part of the role, obviously, is that when we go into schools or talk to schools about apprenticeships, is obviously we need to analyse the vacancies. So I've been doing a lot of research with regards to the impact of COVID-19 on apprenticeship vacancies across the two counties. So taking Gloucestershire as the first one, you can see the number of vacancies in Gloucestershire pre-COVID were 126 vacancies. And literally within the first month, by May 2020, that had dropped to 54, dropped again in June to 50, and then back up again July up to 60, August up to 75, and September up to 63. So the bottom part was basically June, and then a little bit of rallying from there on, although it has dropped back slightly in September, and that's mainly because in August there were an awful lot of vacancies that came on from Gloucestershire County Council and the NHS. Similar picture in Wiltshire. Again, pre-COVID, 115 vacancies, dropped in May to 44 and dropped again in June to 34, really quite low. But now we're seeing a steady incline again now, so 56 in July, 58 in August and 69 in September. Digging down into some of the data within sort of 10-mile radiuses of major towns and cities, the most affected areas with the least opportunities in Gloucestershire are Forest of Dean and Cirencester, and in Wiltshire is Swindon and Salisbury. And likewise, those with the most opportunities in Gloucestershire is Gloucester and Tewkesbury area, and in Wiltshire is Trowbridge and Chippenham. The Trowbridge and Chippenham one is interesting because I think when you search for vacancies on Find an Apprenticeship Gov site, those searches will also include Bath. So you've got the city of Bath in there, which helps. So looking at the sectors, the declining sectors during lockdown, no main surprises really, but engineering, construction, hair and beauty, financial services, hospitality and retail. So basically a lot of the establishments that basically shut right down. And the sectors that increased during lockdown, again, I don't think there's any major surprise there, but healthcare, health and social care, early years care, motor vehicle, IT, pharmacy, equine and agriculture and horticulture. So a lot of those were obviously sectors that were really sort of buoyant during the lockdown and was quite critical to the country. So a lot of vacancies coming through there. And now, since lockdown, those sectors improving. So we've got the sciences, including healthcare and science, teaching assistants, construction, administration, dental nursing, and hospitality. So since the Eat Out to Help Out campaign, hospitality sectors are actually doing a lot better, and there's a number of vacancies now coming through on the apprenticeship route. Other trends that we're seeing is that employers are moving their recruitment plans to January, February, as opposed to sort of September, October. So that's going to be an interesting one as we move forward. Some employers are moving deadline dates or re-advertising their vacancies as well. So either they haven't had sufficient applications or sufficient calibre of applications, and they know that they're in demand, and therefore maybe going back out to market to see if they can improve on that. That said, there are new vacancies coming in on a weekly basis, and they are replacing the expiring vacancies. So that's, on a positive, there's vacancies that are expiring being filled, and new vacancies coming in there all the time. And obviously we've got the government incentives on apprenticeships, and obviously we're seeing some improvements, but it's still too early to tell as yet. As part of the role, as I said, we're visiting schools or doing remote visits to schools, and this is one taken from a Trowbridge school last week. So when we come out to the schools or we speak to the schools, we're telling the students what the vacancies are within a radius of that school postcode. So therefore you can see this particular one in Trowbridge was saying 5 miles, 11 vacancies, and so on and so forth. So the further field they can go, the more opportunities there are. And we also do a snapshot of what those vacancies might well be. So you can see here again, this is for Trowbridge. This is last week, so some of these dates have now expired. But you can see the types of vacancies that are out there and the salaries as well. And you can see some of the salaries are particularly attractive. So in conclusion, there's still apprenticeship vacancies out there. There are obviously just fewer options, but certainly from a pupil point of view, they're still out there. So worth pursuing anyway. More able an applicant is to travel, the further opportunities are going to be. Employers are being more choosy, so pupils will have to go the extra mile in their applications. And employers are revising their recruitment and selection processes to a more remote style, obviously with COVID-19, so a lot more sort of online recruitment, video and telephone interviews and things like that. If you want any support for Ask, there's the contact details there. There's myself delivering for Wiltshire, my colleague in the West of England, Alex Richard, delivers for the West of England for the Ask programme, or you can book direct through the links there. And that's me. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Mike. That's great. So thanks was to Mike and Dominic. So if anybody's got a question, maybe if you put your hand up, then I can sort of give you a shout. If you want to put your mic off if you're not asking a question. Louise, you've got your hand up. Do you want to turn your mic on, Ask?
Yeah. I've got a question to, well, either of you, actually. Actually, Mike might be better placed to answer it, but obviously, Dominic, you might have some views. So I'm thinking, if there's a lot of demand for these apprenticeship vacancies, could it be that school leavers are sort of marginalised? Because if I'm an employer and I'm onboarding a new member of staff, am I looking for somebody who's already got work experience, for example, who knows how to behave in the workplace? Am I going to be looking more at somebody who maybe been made redundant from another job? Rather than a young person from school? I guess that's my concern, is that young people might miss out. What are your views?
Mike, do you want to pick up on that one?
Shall I pick up on that one? Yeah, I think to an element you are right. I think young people without experience will be pushed further down the chain, as it were, and that's where I say it's very critical that they, when doing applications, that they do them in great detail. And there's lots of opportunities that they can sort of put into an application as well, things that they might have been doing during lockdown, self-study, all those sorts of things that they need to put in to show that they are keen. But ultimately employers could be taking on somebody that's been made redundant and therefore has already got some skills. But the incentives for apprenticeships, the younger age group have a higher incentive, up to £3,000 for an employer to take on an apprentice, whereas an older person would be only £1,500. So, it swings and roundabouts, but I think there is an element that we find some young people may get pushed down the ladder a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, that's quite interesting, that incentive, isn't it? Okay, thanks, Mike. Well, right, Melanie, you've got a question. Oh.
Yep. I hope you can hear me. I'm on a funny connection.
Yeah.
What happens? I had a student interested in working sort of, in a chef type apprenticeship, but he said, well, what happens if there's another lockdown and then do I lose my job? Am I eligible for furlough? What sort of, do we know what, is that going to be employer dependent?
So, do you want me to take that one again?
You know, if you're taking on an apprenticeship in a restaurant as a chef,
Yeah.
and then there's another lockdown situation, because it sort of seems to parents and students as if it's somewhat of a kind of government mandated program, does that mean they're going to keep getting paid, or is it they're just an employee and so it's whatever that business decides to do?
Well, ultimately, as an apprentice, they are an employee. So obviously, whatever that business decides to do. But yes, so if we go down into another lockdown scenario and we have the furlough scheme again, then they would be included in the furlough scheme, and they are also entitled to continue study whilst being furloughed as well as an apprentice. So we had a lot of apprentices that were furloughed during the last lockdown, and were able to continue their studies as well, which actually put them ahead of the game with regards to their off-the-job element. But yeah, it's down to each individual organisation as to how they actually manage that. But ultimately, they would have the same rights as any other employee.
Okay. Any other questions? Put your hand up if you want to ask a question, Dominic or Mike. Louise, you've got your hand up. Is that another question, or is your hand still up there, Louise?
No, I should have taken it down. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much to Mike and Dominic for that. That's really useful to get that overview. It'd be great if you could send your presentations through to me so that I can post them up on Career Pilot and people can access them that way. And we'll also hit a broader audience in that way. So that'd be brilliant. So thank you so much for that. Do feel free to stay, but I do understand if you have to go off as well. So I'm just going to share my screen now as we move on to the next part of our session today. Here we go. So thanks to Mike and Dominic. So just to tell you too about LMI, I mean, we're always trying to think about how we can get LMI onto Career Pilot. We have just posted up the National Careers Service, just released some latest LMI infographics. Maybe you've seen these already. So they've actually broken them down a bit more specifically to a small area. There used to be one for the southwest, and now we've got them for west of England, Swindon, Wiltshire, and Gloucester, whatever. So there's lots of these, which might make quite good posters to put up in around the school, which have got employment data. And these were done in June, so they are actually post-lockdown, and they've got all sorts of major companies and things as well. So I think they might be quite useful. And we are reviewing our LMI section as well to see what we can do to make things even more useful. Okay, so I'm going to pass across now to Shauna and then Gemma, and they're talking specifically about some of the strategies that are developing now to deliver Gatsby 6 and 7, Encounters Employers and FE. So let me just get up to that and stop sharing. Okay, shall I pass across to you then, Shauna?
Yep, okay, let me just share my screen.
Okay, we're still recording. That's good.
Right, so can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah, good. Right, we'll do it the proper way and take away the little working sign at the side. Okay, so I'm going to talk from Swindon and Wiltshire, and then Gemma's going to update on her area after me, so that we're aware there might be a little bit of crossover on this. So when I put this presentation together, I was trying to sort of think about what what would I do if I was in your shoes. It's all very easy to say, this is what this is what the guidance says, this is what Gatsby says. But so I was really sort of thinking about it from your angle. So hopefully you'll find it useful. So I think it's very clear that COVID-19 is not going away anytime soon. And if you have heard any of the news bulletins today, it's getting even more depressing minute by minute. But so we have to start looking at this as a long-term situation. So our class of 2020 and their younger counterparts, anyone who's in education now, this is going to have an effect moving forward. And securing a job, as you've just heard from the previous presentations, is going to be more challenging. Although there are glimmers of light out there, getting a job is going to be more challenging. So the task I guess we have as a group of professionals is reworking the existing careers plans to prepare our young people for the new normal And that is right down to how to do an interview on Skype or using Teams, and how to have a phone interview. And I had to learn it because I've had to do a job interview with someone applying for a role in our organisation, and that was a very surreal situation. So there's, as you can imagine, a Career Hub Leads inbox is full of information. So there is a lot of resource out there. One of these ones I picked up, not quite benchmark 6 or 7, but I thought it would be worth sharing with you for any of your NEET and your students who are at risk of becoming NEET, or anyone that you know that fell through the cracks early on in the recruitment process this year. National Career Service are about to launch a set of webinars for job seekers, interview preparations, difficult interview questions, getting the most out of LinkedIn, securing an apprenticeship. They're free. I'll share the resource, and then Sue can send that on. But these would be really good webinars to advertise to young people, or actually if you put them in your newsletters or out to your parents, it might help some of your parents who are being furloughed and maybe being made redundant as well. So benchmark 6, I'm sure I don't need to remind anyone of what the requirement is, but under the new situation, we're doing this very differently. So we still need every young person to have one experience of the workplace by 16, and by 18 we need them to have had a further experience of the workplace. That requirement hasn't gone away. What has changed is Gatsby, with the Careers and Enterprise Company, have tweaked their guidance. And we're still working our way through what this means, and we understand there'll be more guidance coming forward in the next few months. But they've said if you're undertaking benchmark 6, virtual experience of the workplace, this is what it means. The student has to meet a range of people from the workplace. There has to be a two-way interaction between the student and the employees, and the student must undertake or perform a task, a piece of work which is relevant, and receive feedback on it from the employer. So there are benefits to this type of resource coming through the system. It's going to be more flexible on dates. You can access across a greater period of time. They're more accessible placements. You could have a placement anywhere in the country if you wanted to. And it can, I'm hoping, be followed up by an actual site visit. In the long run, it would be lovely if by the time we get to spring, we can get our young people out there again. So I've put a couple of examples up there because there is a lot of there are a lot of virtual work experiences being put together. So we had a presentation recently from Jacobs, who have been running a virtual work experience. They were already on the system. And they had great success over leading up to the school break in the summer, and they've managed this year to put 500 students through their programme, and 97% of those students said that they would recommend a friend to the programme. So I would definitely recommend that you look at the Jacobs website for virtual experiences of the workplace. They are hugely keen to engage with young people and to make this work. There are work experience opportunities out there that were already virtual. So, for example, Barclays work experience was already virtual. They tweak it, they update it as they go along. But there are a huge amount of companies who are looking now at how they turn their work experience opportunities into a virtual format. And I know in Swindon and Wiltshire, we send out, as soon as we find a new activity, we send them out in our newsletters, and we share that information. We also have a Cornerstone Employer Group who we are working with at the moment, and working with our enterprise advisors to look at what was it they used to do and what would they like to do in terms of turning their experience of the workplace into a virtual format. And as a set of career hubs, we're also looking at speakers for schools at the moment, and possibly running an activity with them to pilot more virtual work experience across the southwest. And that, if that works, that would be a huge amount of opportunities. So I'm conscious of time. We were asked to look at benchmark 7, encounters with FE and HE. And it was looking at that and wondering, and I did wonder this when we first all went into lockdown, what was that going to look like? How were we going to make sure that these encounters remained? We've worked hard under the Baker Clause to get training providers and apprenticeship providers into every school and college across the southwest to make sure that young people had those opportunities and that they were able to visit when they were older, they were able to visit universities as well. So Mike has already explained the Ask offer, which obviously if you're thinking about apprenticeships is the go-to place. I know it's my go-to place. But also I came across there is the virtual National Apprenticeship show, which is on the 2nd of December. So I've linked the website there, so I definitely recommend that you look with your students as to what the format of that is going to look like and direct them into that and try and get it into their diaries. So I'm talking from a Swinton and Wiltshire perspective. We have 3 colleges in our hub, and I've got 2 examples here. Both of our colleges have been working really hard to put on online events right across the summer. There's plenty of virtual open events happening, so it's just about going into those websites and linking up that for your students so that they can go and have a look at the virtual open events. I know there's a huge amount of videos and things being done by the staff teams. Actually, the young people can go back and keep looking at these and have, consider things in a bit more of a calm format. And the university, obviously the colleges we're working with in this area have HE provision built into them. So I may be telling you how to suck eggs here a little bit, but UCAS website has got a vast amount of information on the virtual world and how to access their campuses. So again, let's look at this as an opportunity. Our young people have got the chance to look at universities that they might not have been able to travel to. So there are virtual tours that students can be walked through at the beginning and then do some interaction of their own. There are how-to guides preparing young people for a virtual open day. I've never done a virtual open day, so I don't know what it would look like if I was applying. So they might need a bit of hand-holding and then encouraging them to get out there and attend those virtual open days, find out what it's like. And then, as I say, hopefully, come the spring, they will return to face-to-face. So I also find there's a vast amount of information out there on university and apprenticeship virtual fair in the West. There's UK University and Apprenticeship Search Fair is timetabled for the 26th of March next year in Bristol, a face-to-face event. So let's see what happens there, but hopefully that will go ahead. So that's another date for your diary. And there's Meet the Russell Group virtual event will be happening in October, and then the Russell Group has got some warm-up webinars happening. One of the things I've put on here, don't forget Loughborough University. Loughborough were doing virtual resources for their outreach project for the last few years. They've been doing it for a long time. They are fantastic resources, so they're well worth revisiting. Our great colleagues in the Uni Connect programme, so we've got in my area anyway, we've got Study Hire and Win, and they've both now got up-to-date websites with lots of information to send out to direct young people to and their parents to, and that's where you're going to find out, they're going to find out the best resources for them. Going back a little bit more locally for my team, we have a Work Wiltshire website, which has been updated since COVID. There's a huge amount of information about apprenticeships and job searching and how to get involved. FE and HE routes, lots of information on there. There's also under the apprenticeships section there, they post live vacancies. There's lots of information as they come up. They do their trawl and they find the information and they post the vacancies. So it's a good one to have bookmarked for young people. Obviously, we're working with our employers all the time. Our employers have been great since COVID. We have lost a few along the way who are too busy keeping their heads above water at the moment, so they've put things on pause, but the vast majority are still working with us. We've just developed, that's a screenshot of our Careers Hub website, and that is a draft one. We're developing a site on the Swindon and Wiltshire LEP website, so a mini site, where we're going to be trying to direct traffic of employers into the activities that we do. We've just held last Tuesday the Swindon and Wiltshire employer conference, which should have happened in May last year, and it was put on ice during lockdown, and then we decided we weren't going to get face to face in September, so we went online, and we had 77 delegates came to that event and heard from some keynote speakers and are really wanting to engage with us at the moment. So we're seeing a rise in employer engagement, so that's really positive because we didn't know which way that was going to go. And obviously, I mentioned we were working all the time with our Cornerstone Employer Group on virtual encounters and experiences. And then Swindon and Wiltshire will be running 2 live broadcasts on the 19th and the 20th of October, where we're asking those employers to provide 5-minute videos and be online to do some Q&A. So again, that all helps to build the pathway and the progression for those young people. And the student group who are being focused on for those events are the looked after child, the most vulnerable, and the students that are on pupil premium. And we will share more details about that. We're just at the finalising point. And yep, that's all I've got for now. So if I hand back to Sue or over to Gemma.
Thanks, Shona. That's really useful. Thank you for all those amazing links as well. That's useful for us to share.
Okay.
Gemma, I'm going to pass across to you now then, if you're okay to go. And then we'll do a quick chat and share at the end if anybody wants to ask a question. You all right, Gemma?
Yeah. I'd just like to say thank you to Shona for doing such an excellent presentation, because it's left me very little to say, which is great.
Okay.
But I do have a few things to add that are specific to the west of England and might be interested to people outside of the area as well. Obviously, me and Shona speak regularly about what we're doing and share best practice, so it's always good to see what's happening maybe outside of our remit. So just in terms of some national things that have been happening from the Careers and Enterprise Company, obviously they fund the careers hubs and are doing a lot of work on this. You maybe or maybe not were aware of the My Choices resources, and just to let you know that they're now on the Careers and Enterprise website. So there's lots of videos and insights from employers, a range of different providers that can be used during interactions with young people. So just to let you know that those resources are there. There is a new resources directory coming from the Careers and Enterprise Company that will be searchable. So lots of this stuff that's coming through should be a really good place to go. And I think there's also a lot of stuff happening nationally as well as locally on the whole virtual encounters. I think it's important that this isn't just seen as a something just for now solution, that actually some of these tools and ways of doing things will be really useful for the long term. And actually, in some ways, are more impactful for some students. Okay. And then just